Dave, man, you got some stories. When was the first time you saw something and it shocked you?
In 2007, my dad was taking me to do my medical exam, and we saw a rollover on the highway and wound up finding a 5-year-old girl that passed away that got ejected from the vehicle. Wasn't even a cop yet, just graduated the police academy, and that happened right in front of us.
Which property did you see of MGM had the most challenges?
Every property has its different challenges, and a big one is the prostitution and the pimps that hang out in the casinos.
If you're a victim of human trafficking in Las Vegas at a casino, what should you do?
There's numbers, there's people to call, but getting some of these girls to talk, say, F you, I'm not talking, I'm not being trafficked, I'm fine, whatever else. And yeah, no one even shows you the dark side of Vegas.
Welcome to Fargo Talks.
Fargo Talk.
Fargo Talks.
This is Fargo Talks.
Thank you for coming in.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
We'll get into a lot of stuff because, man, you've got some stories. I know you've got stories. I want to thank Brandon Bowski for introducing us.
Yes.
We're both fans of Brandon.
Absolutely.
And Brandon is my most watched clip, is him talking about how women in Scottsdale are the hottest women in the country.
Gotta love Brandon. The thing with him, there's no filter. You get what you get. Either you love him or you hate him.
It's hysterical.
Yes.
Right? And I love him. I
Yes.
love the guy. And people are either absolutely or fuck you.
Exactly.
How dare you? You've never been to LA. You've never been to Milan. You've never been to Rio. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Yes.
So, all right, let's talk with you. You were in law enforcement.
I was for about 15 years prior to getting into what I'm doing now, my clinics stuff.
Why law enforcement?
I grew up in it. My dad's been a cop for, almost 50 years now. So something I grew up in. I could never just sit around and do a 9-to-5 job. When I was thinking about in high school what I wanted to do and wanted to get out and help people, and it was an exciting career, right? You get to run and gun, chase down criminals, and do all the fun stuff. But what a lot of people don't realize is the 5 minutes of fun you have is 5 hours of paperwork that goes along with it. So it's not always what it's cracked up to be, and there's always the political side of things.
Where did you serve?
In Colorado. So I worked 7 years out in Northeast Colorado, kind of by the Nebraska border, for about 7 years for the police department and also for a county department, to where I was able to do many different things, working for like a narcotics task force. I specialized in DUIs and drugs. So I was 1% of cops in the country, in the world, to have a DRE certification, which is drug recognition expert. So I could evaluate somebody and know exactly what they were under the influence of.
Really?
Yep.
Just by looking at them?
Just by
smelling them or whatever?
Do an evaluation, a series of tests that you can do on them, and you can come down to it, and it's backed up by blood results.
What were the tests? What were some of the tests that you would administer to know if somebody was under the influence of drugs?
So normal roadsides, you got the walk and turn, you got nystagmus, checking the eyes, balance, one leg stand. Then also there's other clinical indicators, i.e. blood pressure, pupils, body temperature, things like that you look for, and estimation of time. And some of the times with the eyes, depending on what kind of drug it is, the eyes act differently. Like with cannabis, they won't converge. So what you do is you go around their face in 2 circles, bring the tip of your finger into the bridge of their nose. Once it comes in, the eyes will converge, but then either one or both will jump right back out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So I did that. And then after about 7 years out there, I went back to my hometown, which is Fort Lupton, Colorado, to where I worked for my agency I grew up for, which was amazing. It's something I wanted to get back to. My dad also worked there. So funny story is we and him at one point had the same office about 20 years apart. So there's a picture of him at his desk, and I have the same picture at my new desk, but in the same position in that same office that he had 20 years prior to me moving back there. So
that's great.
So yeah, my time at Fort Lupton was good. I was on SWAT for a majority of my career as well. Moved up the ranks, became a sergeant. Helped run the agency for about 5 years. Specialized in a bunch of different things as well. Besides the DRE stuff, I was our firearms instructor. I was our DUI instructor. You name it, I was an instructor. And I also ran our background investigations, wrote grants for our agency. So pretty much I handled quite a bit of things for the agency.
Let's go back to when I want to go back to your first chapter.
Okay.
Because the roadside stuff, you had to have seen some crazy shit.
Oh yeah. So and with not only the roadside stuff, I got called to like murder investigations, things like that, to evaluate the suspect at the time, to determine if he was under the influence or not at the time of crime. So it's just not for driving; it's also used for criminal aspect as well. So I've seen some pretty crazy things and pretty exciting things in my 15 years of law enforcement and doing that.
What was the first? When was the first time when you were in law enforcement when you saw something and it shocked you? And what was it?
Oh man, honestly, I gotta say, when I was driving up, my dad was taking me in 2007 to do my medical exam for Sterling, the first police agency I worked for. And we saw a rollover on the highway. And we get there, we were the first people on scene, evaluating it, assessing it, and wound up finding a 5-year-old girl that passed away that got ejected from the vehicle. And I walked back the tracks and ended up finding her and rolled her over and found her deceased. So that was probably one of the first shocking things I've seen. Wasn't even a cop yet, just graduated the police academy, going down for my first job, and that happened right in front of us. So it was a good test.
Is there stuff that and again, this is pales in comparison, but before COVID, I went through the Las Vegas Metro Police Department Citizens Police Academy here, which was awesome.
No, it's good information, good knowledge to understand kind of
what PR, just
yes.
everything, right? And like homicide, and everyone was like, "You don't want to miss homicide. You don't want to miss homicide." And I got to be careful with what I say because you'll get blocked on social media. There's certain words you can't say, and so it's like undead,
right,
or unalive. The person was unalive,
right, passed away.
A lot of people who unalive themselves, and a lot happens here in Las Vegas.
Yes,
people here in Gamble or whatever, and stuff like that. There's graphic images of that happening. Was like, oh boy,
yep.
Like the amount of to be in law enforcement, you're carrying that with you.
You learn to cope with it in good ways and bad ways, and you learn to just bury it. Because you have to go on from maybe handling that to the next call, dealing with a family crisis, right? Yeah. With kids involved, things like that. So you learn very quickly to internalize it, leave it where it is, and move on to the next call.
With pulling people over for DUIs, what was some of the funniest things that you can recall from pulling people over?
Just people admitting to me right away, I walk up to them like, "I'm sorry, sir, I'm drunk," or "I'm fucked up." And you're like, "I haven't even got there yet, but hold on, we'll get there." Or there's been times where, I worked for a department that we had a huge methamphetamine problem in our town and heroin. Funniest thing ever. My guys would always give me a hard time because I would be in the office for 8 hours doing paperwork, leave the office. My first stop, I'd get a dope arrest or I'd get some DUI or some good arrest. They're like, "How do you do this, Sarge?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just do it. I know how to." As much as cops say they don't stereotype, they do in a certain way. There's certain things they look for in cars, the way they're driving, the way people look, right? If somebody drives by me and they don't make eye contact, that's a red flag. So I'm going to get behind them and maybe find a traffic violation to pull them over. So I've done that a few times. It's funny, the girl's getting on her ID. As soon as you pull out her ID, she pulls out this big bag of meth, falls in her lap. And I tell her, I'm like, "Don't move." She looks at me. She goes, "You know what that is?" I'm like, "Yes, I know what that is. I'm going to grab it off your lap." She's like, "Okay." Grabbed it off her lap. And from there, she was under the influence of probably meth and heroin at the same time. It's just, you can't cure stupidity with some of these people. And I don't want to say they're not all stupid, but at the time of their actions are not the smartest.
Making incorrect decisions.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Have women ever used pretty privilege?
Oh, absolutely.
Or to get out of a ticket when you pull them over?
Or they try, or they cry, or they, want to show a little cleavage or whatever they want to do. And it's one of those things where you got to hold tight by your standards. And, cops do have discretion, but when it comes to that, I'm not going to give somebody not a ticket just because they're crying or they're trying to get out of it by flirting with me. That's not proper, and that goes against my ethics and my morals of being a police officer. And yes, does that happen? Absolutely. I'm sure it does. It's that 1% of everything that causes bad publicity in every kind of career. So there's always that 1% out there that will use it to their advantage.
It's badge bunnies? Is that
yeah, badge bunnies, yes.
Right?
Yes.
I have buddies back in upstate New York in law enforcement. They never did it either, but would tell me stories about just and bad.
Yes.
Like bad.
Oh yeah. I had ex coworkers that would abuse it and do things on duty they weren't supposed to.
Like having sex with
Yep.
women or men or whatever.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
The whole thing.
Yep. Using the patrol cars, taking them home, doing some shady things. And I've had to be a part of some investigations where when I was working internal investigations that I had to do that with a few of my officers.
Which is incredibly awkward,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's not a day you probably look forward to at all.
Or dispatchers. Cops and dispatchers have a history of hooking up.
Really?
Yep.
Why?
You talk to them all day long. They're on the radio. Some agencies, their dispatching centers in the station. Some it's outside the station, depending on where it's at. So like the few agencies I work for, we had a dispatching call center right there in our agency. So we would bring them lunch. We'd get close to them, right? You'd have a good relationship with them because they're the one taking the calls, relaying you the information to the calls. So you want to have a good relationship with that person, regardless, because they're the ones that are going to have your back. Something happens, they're the ones going to be getting help out to you as fast as they could. So it's that fine line of being professional, but also still having a nice relationship with the dispatchers. And a lot of dispatchers are females, just by the nature of the type of call center it is.
And those uniforms are so hot.
Yeah, apparently they are, yes.
Oh, come on.
Girls love them.
Holy hell. Okay. What are some other tells of someone, how you can tell when you're in law enforcement that they're under the influence of drugs or alcohol?
Oh man, just paranoia, something like methamphetamine or a stimulant, right? They're talking very fast. They can't sit still. They're sweating. It could be a blizzard out or negative 20 degrees and they're walking down the street without a shirt on, sweating. And you're like, hey, what are you doing? Like, oh, I'm just going for a jog at 3 a.m. and it's a blizzard out. It doesn't make sense. So that, like bloodshot watery eyes is another one. Pupil size, certain drugs, I should say, will dilate the pupils. Certain ones will constrict them, like narcotics, i.e. painkillers. That's the only drug that will cause constriction of the pupils.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
So there's some telltale signs, clinical and physical and clinical indicators as well. So
what are, like with the whole thing with drugs now, and some are legal, some are not. What are the ones that you see being abused when you were in law enforcement, the ones that you saw being abused the most?
Honestly, it was where I'm from in Colorado. I like this probably a lot of places is meth and heroin are two of the big abusers, Cannabis, even though it's legal, it's still abused like alcohol. Honestly, I think alcohol is probably one of the worst drugs ever created, to be honest with you. I think there's benefits to psilocybin and CBD and THC, but I think alcohol is one of the worst drugs that was ever created. It was monetized by the American government and they can tax it and that's how it is. So alcohol's, by today's standard, is socially acceptable, but some of these other things I think are becoming more socially acceptable, but they have a better use than alcohol.
Is it something that, do you become desensitized in law enforcement when you see you see the worst in people?
Yeah, absolutely. You become desensitized, and I tried my best, so I'm trying my best not to be jaded, and I still try to look for the good in people, and that's one of the good traits about me that people will say is I still look for the good in people. Even though I did that for 15 years, I still try to find the best in people when a lot of people are shitty, unfortunately. And moving from Colorado to Vegas, I found out there's a lot more shitty people in Vegas than good people out here, depending on what you're looking for. People out here in Vegas are a different beast than versus, small town Colorado or the suburbs or rural Colorado. So,
and what year did you come here?
2019, right before the pandemic.
Okay. And to do what?
So I initially left law enforcement. I was in the process with Metro at the time. I left Colorado just because I wasn't happy with some things were going on with my agency. Me and my chief of police at the time were not getting along. He wound up throwing me under the bus to save his own career, just kind of some shady stuff that I didn't want to be a part of anymore. So I came out here. I was applying with Metro, found out that MGM Properties created an ERT team, emergency response team program. So I applied with them, wound up getting hired with them, and wound up becoming one of their training managers for a few years. So pretty much with my background in SWAT and tactics and training and instructing, it was a perfect fit to go back into a training module to help train all the new people they hired for the ERT program.
Which property did you see of MGM had the most challenges, or where you had the most calls?
It depends. Every property has its different challenges and logistics, things like that. It just they're huge. So there's back of house. MGM has some good calls because they have a lot of homeless people that wander in and out of that place. It's every casino has that. A big one is the prostitution and the pimps that hang out in the casinos, and worked hand in hand with Metro Vice and things like that. Working operations with them, which was fun. Pretty much we were reactive but proactive at the same time. We were there to deter things from happening, and it's actually a good deterrent because of who we are and kind of the uniform aspect of it.
What were some of the things that happened you personally saw at MGM that stood out?
So this, a couple times we've had people make allegations of wanting to blow up the building, right? Wanting to blow up the building, or I remember one guy that we wound up having to take down, and he threatened to start shooting up, inside the sports book at MGM.
Was he armed?
Luckily, no. We wound up getting him down, and he wasn't armed. There's also been an incident at Aria, probably in the last 5 years, where there's a guy that came in the lobby with a gun, and luckily he didn't get shot. But the teams did a good job of responding to it.
From the time he walked into the Aria with a firearm, how long did it take for you guys to be on site? And what's the protocol when something like that happens?
So it gets dispatched to us usually within minutes, because the reason why the ERT team was developed, many people think it was because of the Mandalay Bay shooting, which wasn't the case. The ERT team was already in the works of being created and developed. Unfortunately, Mandalay Bay happened, and right before the teams went live. They went live in December that year. So usually minutes, because the average time for Metro to respond is 7 to 10. So, and that's a long time when something happens. Yeah. So the ERT team's average, is 30 seconds to a minute, response time to any kind of incident, depending on where it's at on the casino floor, if it's in a hotel or where it's at.
So for MGM has ERT people on each property?
Every single property, yes.
Okay. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yep.
They are there,
yep,
hoping not to get a call. But if they do get a call, they're on it within seconds or minutes.
Yes, absolutely. They train specifically for hotels and the environments in it to make sure everybody's safe and protected. And they do a lot of training within clearing the rooms, clearing the casinos, which when they're not patrolling the floors, they're usually training or doing something to keep themselves active.
Is the one thing I keep hearing a lot about here in town, in Vegas, is people unaliving themselves.
Yes.
A lot of that happens here. Is that something that you saw a lot?
Not a lot. I seen it. I heard calls of it. We went to calls of it. It happens, but the casinos do a good job of keeping it down on the lowdown, right?
Oh yeah.
Any kind of incident, they don't want the public knowing or their guests knowing that things happen in the hotel. They quiet it up pretty quick, so it doesn't get out and about, because of course you don't want to be vacationing here and find out somebody undead themselves or had an incident in a room or whatever the case is, to where we deter people from wanting to come back. So they do a good job of keeping things suppressed.
It is widely known that the casinos withhold, so there's somehow, some way, so it doesn't get out in the news, no one knows about it, that people that unalive themselves at the casinos here, it doesn't make the news.
No.
Correct?
Yeah, unless it's a big high profile case or a celebrity or some kind of high profile situation, then yes, it will make the news. But other than that, it never goes, you never know about it unless you were there.
There's stuff I've put out, content, and one guy put, well, you're the unalive capital of the nation. I was like, what? And I looked it up. We are.
I believe it.
We're like, well, depending on what source you look at, Dave, we're 1 or 2.
I believe it.
In the nation.
Well, gambling addiction has one of the highest undead rates out of any kind of addiction.
And that was when the police academy, the Citizen Police Academy that I went through, a lot of the people that took their own lives, they left a note, there was a whole thing, and a lot of it was gambling.
Yep.
A lot of it was they just lost it all. Kids, college stuff, everything gone.
All in one, yep.
All gone.
They don't think they have a way out, so they choose the selfish way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Which is the absolute worst ever, the most selfish way ever to do that. And that is the underbelly of Vegas that really nobody talks about.
Right. Yeah. No one even shows you the dark side of Vegas, which there's a lot of darkness in Vegas that no one realizes, right? All this lights and glamour, it's cool, it's fun, but beneath it all, there's a lot of darkness.
What else have you seen?
I've seen a lot. So that's very subjective. People ask me all the time, what's the worst thing you've seen or what's something crazy? I'm like, my crazy could be different than your crazy. So, one of the most crazy calls I've been on was when I was a sheriff's deputy in Logan County in Colorado. I went to a call. It was a fair night, so it was usually low key because we're working the county fair. It's country stuff. Get a call of a shooting at a gas station. We're up there, get there, found one guy down in the parking lot. Another guy shot in inside the Sinclair. And turns out I was the first one on scene. Turns out what happened is he was one of our local druggies, wound up stealing from another big-time drug dealer in a neighboring city. The guy's sister set him up, brought him to that gas station to set him up, wound up 4 or 5 gang members came down from Greeley, wound up stacking on the building like military style, came out, ambushed him. He wound up getting a couple shots off, shot one of them, and he got shot. It turned into this investigation that I was on, and we did a couple SWAT raids within that time. And I think I was on for 28, 29 hours straight working that call. It's one of the most eerie feelings, one of the most eerie things I rolled up to because that Sinclair is at the top of a hill. So there's no way I could have pulled into that Sinclair without being seen or
you're exposed.
I was compromised the entire time.
Yeah.
So luckily the guy inside the store got rid of his gun because I didn't even know he was in there until about 10 minutes after I was there. So that was that was crazy. That was one of the high speed call I've been on. I've been on many SWAT calls, where we do entries and there were flashbangs and people just not wanting to give up and turns into hours long standoffs and so the blood and gory never really got to me. Is more or less when kids are involved. Yeah. That's what makes it worse.
Let's fast forward back to you're in Vegas. And was it just MGM that you worked at?
No, I worked at MGM for about 2 years. Then I decided to get back in law enforcement, went out to my Moapa Band Tribal Police for about a year. Wound up blowing my knee out, taking the state certification exam, the PT test. And since they are a sovereign nation, they don't abide by state or federal laws. So they wound up bouncing me the day after I blew my knee out. So,
really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're like, you didn't pass. Unfortunately, we're going to have to get rid of you.
And that was it.
Yeah, that was it. Try to fight them, did workers' comp or unemployment. They said, no, we don't have to pay you because we don't abide by state laws.
We're a sovereign nation.
Yep.
And that's
so
it.
Working for a tribal, a reservation is a different beast in itself. They're not a fan of white people, especially with them the cops trying to tell them what to do. And the police department was made up of former Metro guys and other experienced law enforcement that had good backgrounds. But it was always an uphill battle because you always had to answer to the tribal council if you did something, or if something happened, you had to get permission to pretty much do your job. So it almost like you were a glorified security guard.
Really?
Unfortunately, yes.
That's awful.
Yeah. I have buddies out there now that they still like it, and it's a good job. They pay well, but you just don't get utilized to your full capacity.
Because you're not tribal.
You're not tribal, and you're on a sovereign nation, so different laws apply. Different rules apply to different people out there. So and it's a status quo depending on who you are. A lot of people are related to the council members, things like that. So something happens, and yeah, it's very difficult to navigate, I should say.
And then you came back here into Vegas to work?
I did. I wound up getting hired at the Wynn, helped running corporate investigations, and I wound up doing a lot of investigations with my partner at the time over nightlife like XS and EBC, and did hotel investigations, but did a lot of internal investigations with the nightlife as well.
What were the talk to me about the nightlife investigations. What were the big things you were doing there?
So a lot of time, a lot of drugs going on. Inside the clubs, of course, we have people sneaking drugs in there. One of the biggest things we worked was there was a cell phone ring theft or a cell phone ring theft group out of Brazil or South America that would come up in groups. And this was happening all over the Strip. In every club, they would pickpocket people and take cell phones. There was times we were getting 20, 30, 50 cell phone thefts reports a night. It's happened in Hakkasan. It was happening in all these other clubs. No one can catch them. One night, me and my partner finally caught 2 of the guys. Caught them coming out, wound up getting back a majority of the cell phones, and they went to getting arrested on felonies, things like that. And that's when it turned out it was a big cell phone theft ring where they were putting the cell phones back to South America and selling them for a premium price.
That's bananas.
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
What? Okay.
Yeah. Just take advantage of people, they desensitize them. It's you're in a crowd, you're covered up, so you're used to being touched. So they desensitize people to the touch, and then they would start pickpocketing or opening the purse, and they wouldn't even notice.
What the fuck?
And of course, people are partying, they're drunk, or whatever's going on.
They don't know.
They don't pay attention.
They don't know.
So,
how many times have you caught people having sex?
A few times, especially.
I feel like a boatload. Like a boatload.
So, like in the cabanas and things like that, it does happen. Not as much as people think. I think now because everybody knows there's cameras everywhere. So there's some of the best surveillance in the world is in the city. So and the Wynn has really good surveillance. So which is it's good. So there's usually not a gap in coverage in a lot of places.
How long? It's a wild question, but how long if someone starts going at it like sexually until it shows up on security and like you're getting a call? Like is there even like full penetration, or the guy's like halfway in?
Usually pretty quick. Like they see the pool, the security's pretty good in keeping up on it, or they're keeping eyes on the cabana, thing like that. Usually, it won't happen longer than a few minutes if it does before they're usually caught.
And like, do you track like if a guy and a girl walk into the men's bathroom together?
Yep, we'll track it.
That's a biggie.
That's
right?
a biggie. Yeah. So you can't go into the stalls together as groups or couples, things like that, just because of the thing of that. So yeah, we'll backtrack them. We'll do a video review. Say, hey, these people just went in the bathroom. Go in and grab them, pull them out. Hey, what are you guys doing in here? Trying to figure out what's going on. And
you're moving fast, like because you got to go. If not,
yes.
they're for lack of a better term, they're in and out
exactly
in minutes.
Right. And then they try to deny it. And then you get the cell phone, or you get the video coverage. So no, we saw you walk in the bathroom together. Like even if you don't catch them in there, you still have evidence to show they went in there together. So, and if you want to be trespassed, it's really easy. One of the easiest properties to get trespassed from is a Wynn. They'll trespass you for looking at somebody sideways.
Define so people that don't know, what does trespass mean?
So trespass means you are given a warning, escorted off property, read the Nevada state statute for trespass, advising them they're being trespassed from the property. If they come back, then they'll be liable for criminal charges or arrest. So that's their way to get people off property. They document it within internally, video camera showing them escorted. So now if the person comes back on property, they show and they have documentation this person was trespassed, acknowledge he was trespassed. So now then Metro will show up, call Metro, and the Metro will show up and give them a citation and or arrest them.
If I am written up for trespassing, say it's my first offense, whatever, something happens, I do something crazy at the Wynn, and I'm trespassed, I leave, and say 5 months later, I walk on the property. How long would it take for facial recognition software to identify me as someone that's it's not the black book, but someone that's, not allowed on the property, and for me to be, apprehended or detained?
It depends. To be honest with you, people think a lot of these properties have facial recognition, but that's not the case.
Oh.
Tell
me more, sir.
There's a few properties that have really good facial recognition. MGM Grand, for one, has a really good setup. But a lot of other places don't have facial recognition. What they rely on is things like their security group or the special operation guards at the Wynn, i.e., which is a version of the ERT unit that MGM has. They stand post all the doors. They have a different philosophy than MGM did with their special response team. So they post a guy up usually at all the entrances. Every morning they'll probably, give them a briefing, or they'll get notifications who was trespassed. So they'll have like a flyer, like a booklet of who was trespassed. So if they recognize you walking in, they'll intercept you. If you're just some Joe Smo off the street, trespassed 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago, they probably won't recognize you. You show up and gamble, but if you give your ID to get your player's card, or something happens where you got to give your ID up, you'll get flagged in the system. Then they'll come chat with you and ask you to leave. Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yep. And what people don't realize, they think it's a year ban or a year trespass. It's actually a lifetime until you actually get it lifted by the VP of security from the Wynn.
How often does that happen?
It depends on the circumstances, but if it's a non-violent situation or a big drug thing, they're usually pretty good about waiving people's trespassing, after about a year.
Where's the safest property on the Strip?
Ooh, that's subjective. I think every property is doing a better job now, especially with how things are in America and after the 10-1 incident, on making sure guests are safe. Every property or every casino or it seems like they have some kind of special response team or some kind of armed former military guys that are there to help eliminate any kind of threats from happening, instead of relying on solely Metro's 7 to 10 minute response time, which is a lot in that kind of realm, to stop something bad from happening, like an active shooter, a mass shooter, or, they call it active assailant, right? It doesn't have to be a shooter. It could be a stabbing. It could be whatever kind of mass incident is going on. So I think a lot of the properties are doing a better job of making sure people are safe. To be honest with you, I think, the Wynn is probably one of the safest properties in Vegas.
So if you were coming in from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and it's your first time ever in Vegas, and you've got 20 grand you're going to spend, you just took a second on in your house, you're like, screw it, I'm going to Vegas. Where would you stay?
Honestly,
they want somewhere that's safe. You could put your money in the safe, and it's going to be okay there. The whole thing.
My top casinos is the Wynn. Fontainebleau is nice, but I still love. I love the Mirage, or I like the Cosmo. So that's my personal preference. But one of the safest is probably the Wynn. If I were to come here with my family, things like that, just knowing how they are, they're a 5-star resort. If you can afford it, the Wynn is probably one of the best places to stay in Vegas. For if you can afford that kind of luxury.
Why are they the best?
They strive on, customer support, customer service, making sure you have the greatest experience you can there. They're all about making the experience as best you can. Most of these, fortunately, some of these hotels and properties get away from that. Like something happens, you're just a number. At the Wynn, they still value that customer service experience. To a certain degree, right? Everything's corporate now, but
everything's corporate.
Unfortunately, so they have every place has their issues, right? No place is perfect, but that's probably one of my favorite resorts in town still.
I love the Wynn. I'm with you.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm with you.
I spend way too much time there sometimes, hanging out with friends and doing things. So yeah, it's one of my favorite properties to be. Yeah, and I still know a lot of people there, so I still have a lot of friends that work there. So it's nice just to go talk and hang out. And
did you ever work Encore Beach Club?
I never worked it solely, but I did investigations over it. Like we're down there at night and do investigations. I have a lot of buddies that are hosts, in town for Wynn Nightlife and other places.
I asked because a good buddy of mine, Brandon from Vegas, was on, and the clips have gone viral. It's hysterical. Because I asked him, I said, "Where is the best? If I was a young single guy coming to Vegas, what club do I have to go to?" And he's like, "Encore Beach Club, hands down, the number one club in town to go to."
That or XS, well, same property, right? Encore Beach Club is the day club at the pool, and then XS is the other club, on the Wynn side. So those two are probably the two of the top best clubs to go to in Vegas,
Why? In your opinion, why?
Just the overall experience. Of course you're going to spend a premium. If you're coming here, you're going to, if you want to buy a table, it's, $2,000 to $5,000 a table, or some people are spending godly amounts, $100K, $200K, or whatever it is they want to spend. But for the experience, you just can't beat it. There's nice venues, they're big, they're spaciously, you're not crowded in some of these other smaller venues here in town. Like you can actually walk and enjoy it. And XS is a huge venue, and so is EBC. And it gets they throw some of the greatest parties. It's wild.
It's got to be, again, I've never been to a club. Like I just haven't. That's just not me. And I'm 54. Jesus, I'm 54. So for me, it would be kind of like pedophilia for me to go to a fucking club now.
Right.
I just wouldn't do it. But it's got to be just like a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol. I've never done ecstasy before. I love gummies. I'm a big gummy guy.
Right.
But it's got to be a lot of just like that type of things being partaken of.
Oh, absolutely. Alcohol is, that's what they sell it on, right? That's what they bank it on. People getting intoxicated, and I wouldn't say taking advantage of them, but people get a lot looser when they're intoxicated and they spend more money and have a good time. And of course, there's always some drugs involved. People, no matter how hard you can try to stop them, they're always going to get something in the club. There's ways to sneak it in regardless. And people get caught, sometimes. And the Wynn does a really good job on expediting that and doing I tell people all the time when they come to town, I say, if you're going to be stupid, don't do it at the Wynn, because they're better than TSA. They'll search you better than TSA. Their regulations are very top notch there, and they want to let you come in with a pack of gum.
That's insane. I love that. Did you ever meet Steve?
No, I was there after he left.
Okay.
Yep.
Probably better.
So I heard good stories about him. I've heard bad stories about him. People usually will love him or they hated him. So
I've been here 13 years. I've heard the same thing.
One of the people that I knew that worked for him, that knew him, they said he was a great boss. They took care of him. He was a boss, an employee's boss. Loved all his employees. Took care of everybody he could. So there was that side of it, but also heard the other sides of he wasn't the greatest person in the world as well.
Which shit happens.
Yes,
shit happens. The whole club thing, like I have a girl coming on that I'm friends with, and she's in mortgage and lending in town, but she opened Omnia.
Okay.
She opened it and was like their #1 bottle service girl
Oh, I believe it.
for
yes.
a while.
Those girls make ridiculous
And
amounts
got
of money.
out of it now and is a mortgage lender in town and kills it. And she's a sweetheart and is a mom and, and everything, right? And I'm going to be talking with her, and that'll be coming up. That'll be the episode after this one, actually, talking to her about the business of being a bottle girl.
Gotcha.
Because I'm more about when I have people come on here, entrepreneurial stuff, Vegas stuff,
Right.
about like what makes it unique about Vegas. And so the stuff I'm going to talk to her about is, how do you know that you can get a guy to like pin his credit card, money on you? And do you have repeat clientele? And is it just one-offs you're getting all the time? And stuff like that. I'm so excited. And she was like, I'm done with that. I'll talk about whatever you want to. I didn't sign a confidentiality agreement, just
Right.
like you. So I'm an open book.
Yep.
And I'm willing to be vulnerable. I'm like, fine, I'm not going to do any gotcha stuff. That's not me.
Yeah.
So it'll be respectful, but I'd love you to share.
Oh, a lot of these guys come to town. There's repeat. A lot of my friends that are hosts in nightlife, they have clients that come back monthly or every 2 months, or they come back, quarterly, and they know they'll drop 20 to 40, 60 grand. And yeah, they'll give them, let's say, you've been a repeat client of mine for 15 years. I may get you in the club that night and give you a zero minimum, but I know you're going to spend 20,000.
I had a buddy, when I moved here from upstate New York, was in upstate New York for years, and then moved to St. George, Utah. And so this is 05 to 06, 07-ish. And I'd go with, I won't mention his name, but I'd go with him, his wife at the time, and we'd stay at the Wynn Tower Suites.
Yep.
At the Wynn. And we'd go to Trist.
Yep.
And Trist had the grotto. And over on you go out where the water was on the left-hand side.
Yep.
And I had a guy that this is back when I was single and I was very good at inhaling. I had a guy I called, I had his number in my phone, that he'd show up and he'd drop off a little baggie for me, a blow, and I would go and literally, my buddy had a Centurion card, the black card.
Yep.
So he would juice, there'd be a giant line of people. We'd go right to the front. He'd be like, hey, I'm looking for the manager. Get the manager over. He'd juice that guy $100 and give him the Centurion card. We'd get walked down to whoever was the manager of the grotto area, and then get walked out to one of by the water feature.
Yep. You had a premium table
out there. I have a
yes.
premium table and go nuts. And my move was always, I'd go in the bathroom, and there's always a guy in there, like with back then it's like Obsession for Men, Polo,
right.
Fucking awful shit that now you buy at CVS. And I'd grease him $20. And then whenever I came in,
he wouldn't say anything to you.
He wouldn't say a word, and he would set aside like a handicapped stall for me.
So he knew, yep.
So I can go in there, do my business, and all was good.
I'm not going to say that probably doesn't happen anymore. But
I'm sure it does. It's
still
fine.
does all the time.
It
It's
is
Vegas.
what it is. It's Vegas.
So I tell my friends, I'm like, Vegas is not reality. We don't live in reality in this town.
Well, talk about, all right, so again, it was and I'd been coming to Vegas for years, but not like, what, I would come here, party, have a good time, but not at this level. Like we were coming like once a month, coming over.
Yeah.
And I'm on the dance floor, dancing with my buddy and his wife, this ridiculously attractive blonde, just comes up and starts dancing with me. Next thing you know, like the shot girl comes over, we're doing shots together. I'm like, this girl's into me.
Yep.
She loves me. I'm like, I must be my obsession for men.
I got it. Yeah.
I've got it. I've got it. Go, Jeff. You go, bud.
Right.
And then she looks at me and she goes, do you want to get a room? I said, absolutely, I want to get a room with you. She goes, it'll be $2,500. I'm like, for the room? No, for me. I went, oh, wah, wah.
Yeah, yes. That
I
happens.
didn't have it.
Yep.
I was a mark. And I'm like, this chick, she came over to the table and met my friends, and we're all doing shots together and the whole thing. And they're like,
they're good. They're good at what they do.
They're good. And used to be in sales, I'm like, some of the best salespeople in the world are here in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And I mean, the girls that are in the nightlife industry, even if they're like the exotic dancers,
they're good at selling. Their customer service is amazing.
Incredible.
Yes.
And again, because I had one girl come in from the adult film, two girls come in from the adult film industry. Alexis Fox came in, 25 AVN awards. We're now great friends. We talked more about what she does entrepreneurially to build her business up, because you're only in the business for this amount of time, making this much money. What are you going to do? I would love to talk to some women or guys that are in the adult entertainment business here and talk about their business model.
Right.
Like, how do you, not a mark, but how can you tell if they're a mark? And is it just keep throwing it out there and eventually something sticks, or what?
They're good at psychology, right? They look around, they see, just like criminals, right? They look for, I would say, weak people that they're looking for. They have their probably demographic they're looking for. I.e., are they intoxicated? They, the mid, where are they at? They're age wise. They look like they have money. They're good on picking out good marks, especially if you're at the win, right? If you're at the win, people are going to assume you have money.
If hypothetically, I was looking to make a friend for the evening, where at the Win is the best place to go?
So the B bar, Baccarat bars, heavily trafficked for them, which is it's on the Win side, and then probably East Side Lounge on the Encore side. And
is there any type of, I forget, Brandon one time from Vegas had a whole video about like if they have their phone up or down or something like that, anything like that at all? Like it sends some kind of code? No, not really. Like you can get good if you're here long enough or seeing it long enough. You can point them out pretty easy. And I like doing it. I like pointing them out to my friends. It's okay. So back when the Hard Rock was the Hard Rock and they had the Circle Bar. Yep. And anybody that's been around, you had drinks at the fucking Circle Bar. Yes, it was the best place to go. I remember that. Yes, right? It was a fun time. 4 or 5 people deep around. It was awesome. Yep. It was awesome. And I'd go there with buddies of mine and you'd play the game. Are they normal or are they a hooker or an escort? Yes. Was the best game ever. Like, is she being nice or is she a hooker? Right. Or she were. And is she working? Yep. Is she working? And that became fun and after a while, you knew who it was. And it turns out to be some good conversations because I've done it before with my friends in town right before I moved here, things like that. It's just fun conversations to have. And it's just funny. Like, oh, you're working? Okay, I'm good. I'm going to move away now. Like, I'm flattered. Thank you very much. Yep. And I did a video about this when COVID came through and they just started to reopen everything. And I met at that time I was in real estate for Talent Escrow here in town, and I met a real estate agent who was a client of mine at the Chandelier Bar at the Cosmo. Yep. And I met her there. We just had some drinks to catch up, and then I walk outside. I get her to her ride share, and I'm shit faced. And I'm outside kind of looking to go find a rideshare place. And this extremely attractive young black girl comes up. She goes, "Hey, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm good. How you doing?" She goes, "I'm good. I'm going over right across the street." I don't know whatever's across the street from the Cosmo. Planet Hollywood or Planet Hollywood. I'm going to Planet Hollywood. I was going to go play blackjack. Want to go play with me? I go, "Are you working?" And she starts giggling. I go, "You know what? It shows we're out of quarantine. Good for you." The working girls are back in Vegas. Got to make their money somehow. Good for you, honey. I go, "I'm all set. Thanks so much. I don't pay, but good for you." Right. Have a good night. I hope you land 50 Johns tonight. Yes. Go ahead. Get throttled. That's awesome. But I just thought that was hysterical. That, okay, we're reopened. The hookers are back in Las Vegas. Well, yeah, and a lot of them are controlled by pimps, unfortunately, and that's a big issue as well. Is, talk about trafficking. A lot of these girls wound up being trafficked, and there's different meanings to being trafficked, right? Like they weren't maybe trafficked here from somewhere else, but they're being manipulated into this field, or maybe they got into, at a younger age, and they get hooked up with a pimp or an organization that exploits them, and then they can't get out of it. Is there a certain, again, I'm profiling, I'm blatantly profiling. I'll say it before you do. Oh yeah. But what cultures or areas of the world are the pimps here in Las Vegas? They are mainly African Americans. There are some, white ones, but majority of the ones that I found are African American or European. Most of them, like I said, you can pretty much see them, the way they act. They don't drink at the bar. They're watching the girls. They're trying to be covert, but they're not as covert as they think they are. I always because I'm like I said, I'm 54. So I just think a pimp is like the guy's got the cane, right, and the zoot suit and the the hat. They try to blend in. They try pocket to watch. Yep. They try to blend in. They try to look normal as much as they can, and they can be very violent. We've had some calls, that where one of the pimps was walking one of his girls out and straight up cold cocks her. Jesus. Right outside the casino. But don't they know, okay. But they know the girls aren't going to talk because they have their livelihood, right? They take all their money. They have everything. They supply them with they're good at manipulating them to a certain degree. They control everything. They control their lives. They don't have phones. They don't have, everything they have is given to them by their pimp. It's awful. It's awful. And that's why my story, I'm saying it in jest, but I'm not condoning like
Right.
trafficking at all. I think it's horrific. And it's just, I mean, it's gone on forever. I mean, it's the oldest profession in the world is prostitution.
Yes.
But now, like I remember, I back when my girlfriend, when Brandy was in Tampa, I go, "Okay, take a drink. You're
Okay.
fine. Take a drink. You're good. I'll talk for a second.
Yeah.
Whenever I see you do that, I'll stretch. So you're good. I got you.
cool. Got it.
This is
Perfect.
episode like 63.
Okay,
I got
perfect.
you, Dave.
Okay,
I got
perfect.
you, brother. I go every 2 months, 2 to 3 months. I go upstate New York to see my dad, and I was going every other month or every month to go see Brandy. Now she's here, but I remember seeing on a Southwest flight, and this is last month, that when you go into the bathroom and there's a little sign, it's the first time I ever saw it, that said, if you are a victim or if you know someone of a victim of human trafficking, please let the flight attendant know. Because they have a whole protocol.
And even the casinos doing that now too. There's training on it. They're doing for anti-trafficking, things like that.
Okay, so and also the reason why I formulate these questions so these can be clipped, because some people watch the long form,
Right.
but I get 2 to 4 million people a month watch these short form
makes
clips
sense.
of our conversations.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
So what is the best way to let someone know if you see someone you feel, if you're a victim of human trafficking in Las Vegas at a casino, or if you feel you see someone that is a victim of human trafficking, what should you do?
Go up to any security guard. They all have protocols, or any staff at that. There's mandatory training now. At least I know the Wynn does it. I'm sure all the other properties will do it. They do mandatory training on help spotting it, trafficking victims, or if somebody comes up to you that's trafficked or knows somebody that's trafficked, on where to reach out. There's numbers, there's people to call. Metro does a good job with it. They have, the victim advocates that can come out and help assist. But getting some of these girls to talk, like we ran the Vice operations a lot when I was at the Wynn. We worked hand-in-hand with Vice. They would get a room, do sting operations, whatever it is. And to even get those girls to talk, they would say, fuck you, I'm not talking, I'm not being trafficked, I'm fine, whatever else. And maybe one out of 100 would talk.
Do you have kids?
No kids.
Okay. I have a 15-year-old daughter. I'm an 8-year-old son. I'll start crying about this. It is, to me, it's bad.
It's bad.
It's bad.
Sad. And you get some of these girls that come in are 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
And you know for sure something's going on, but they won't talk for whatever reason. And some of these girls actually, I'm not gonna lie, they enjoy what they do. They enjoy this type of industry. But some of them get forced into it, i.e. drugs, or they have other issues going on, and they get manipulated into the industry and get suckered in and have no way out. Where
do the pimps get the women from? Do you know?
I have no idea. Anywhere, i.e. they start courting them. Hey, come out to Vegas. I'll take you to dinner, place to live. I'll set you up. Whatever
social
you
media,
need. Grooming, social media, things like that. So and a lot of them will go up to girls at the bar too and just start talking to them, and the pimps will start grooming them. When they meet them out and about.
If you know of anyone who does the training or who is deeply into like fighting a human trafficking here in Vegas, I'd love to have them on.
Yeah,
to give them a voice.
Yeah, I'll definitely give you some people's information.
I would love that because
it's huge. It's
right. I really there's a few issues that are at the top of my list, like CCSD. School district here is awful.
It's absolutely terrible.
Where's all the money going from cannabis tax?
Right.
Like I was supposed to go to the schools, now it's not. But the biggie also is human trafficking, and again, I have ADHD, so like my brain's flying all over the place.
No, you're good. I like it. It's all right.
I apologize.
No, it's good. I like it. I like jumping all over the place.
If somebody is a victim of human trafficking, and let's be property specific, they're at Aria, and they want to get out. Like they feel like this guy is going to, if they go back up to their room, this guy is going to unalive her.
Yep.
What can she do immediately to get distance from this guy?
I find any security guard, staff, and they can assist you. There's always some kind of Metro. If there's an event going on, or most every property has an event going on, or i.e. they have overtime Metro guys, a lot of these properties. So i.e. find a security guard, find somebody that works for the property and talk to them. Let them know. You can be discreet about it, but let them know, like, hey, just go up there and inform them, hey, like, I'm not comfortable. I need your help. Or I need assistance. Like,
let's say, again, a bad example, but I'm being human trafficked.
Yes.
Whoever want to human traffic me, you have glaucoma. Like, you are blind. It's,
right.
It's a direct. The only person that would human traffic me is a direct descendant of Helen Keller, for the record.
Right.
Okay. But can I just go up to? Because I could say to the guy I'm with, hey, I'll be right back. I have to go to the bathroom. And then he lets me go.
Yep.
And then I just go up to someone and go, I need help right now.
Yep.
That's all I have to do.
That's all you
And
have
then how long does it take for me telling, let's say, a blackjack dealer, I need help right now because I'm being human trafficked? How long for...
It should initiate a response within, seconds, i.e. that's how it should be. Does it happen that way all the time? Probably
That's
not,
SOP
right?
for
Yes.
like almost every property.
Yeah.
And again,
it should be taken. They don't take it lightly, and it should not be taken lightly. So the response should be immediately.
To me, that's worse than fentanyl. That's worse than gambling addiction. That was when to me, that's number one.
Does I say it happens? Probably people get dismissed still, unfortunately, which is sad. You should never take it that lightly, right?
Ever.
If somebody ever came to me and was like, hey, I need help, I'm dropping whatever I'm doing to assist that person. I do that still to this day, even though I'm not in that industry or law enforcement. If I see somebody needing help or if I see something going on, I'll step in still to this day.
You're a good man.
It's just how my brain is wired.
Well, you're a good man.
Yeah.
You're as the Jewish culture would call you a mensch. You're a good man.
Yeah.
I like how the airport is much more proactive with it now, because I've seen it. Like I'll travel with my daughter, and people are looking at us.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, and unfortunately for her, she looks just like me, except she's attractive with hair.
I feel you being bald.
Alex looks just like me, and so. And she's my bud. And so, but I'm traveling with her, and I bring her back and my son back to see their grandfather back to Canada, New York every single year. We go back for about 10 days.
Yep.
But I know I will see like TSA people going through clear, to go through the checkout thing, and you'll see that we're getting looked at.
Yep.
And I'm okay with that.
It's not a bad thing.
No, I'm totally okay with that. It's just, I guess, something that before I had kids or I just was too self-centered that I just didn't give a shit. But now the whole human trafficking thing is just, it's awful.
Yeah, a lot more awareness.
Awful.
I don't think many people realize for a lot of years how bad it was, how bad of an issue it is. It's a huge issue,
Well,
right? People think of human trafficking, right, is taking one girl from one place to another and slaving her. It's a form of slavery, but human trafficking is just being controlled by somebody else. That's a form of human trafficking, i.e. a pimp or whatever,
What's the demographic of women that are being human trafficked? Are they from the U.S.? Are they from another country? Are they African American? Are they white?
There's no demo. It's subjective. It's all over the map, right? It could be anything. I've seen girls that were 18 years old from Alabama here doing it. That you're like, how'd you get out here? Oh, I met this guy. Oh, well, tell me about the guy. I don't want to talk about him. He brought me out here, or there's been times where girls come on vacation and they wound up getting, baited in and coming back and doing it. Yeah, it's because they take advantage of them. I.e., drugs is a big thing. Get people hooked on drugs, ketamine, whatever it is, and they hold it over their head and just a manipulation tactic to keep them around. Or if they have kids, right, then they'll use their kids against them, or they'll use a family against them, and it's very sad.
Is there a protocol in place for someone that is a victim of human trafficking that when they say, hey, I need help, that they get them away from that person and that through transition they can get them back home? Like, hey, we're going to get you a plane ticket, we're going to get you home.
There's organizations here in town that work hand in hand with casinos and Metro and law enforcement that are safe houses, safe places for them to go, and we'll help them transition back to wherever they need to go.
Okay.
So
I remember I was on the board for a while years ago, Safe Nest, and that was victims of men and women, but mostly women, unfortunately, of domestic violence,
yes,
battery. And Safe Nest is so good. They have people that would be right there at the courthouse that when the restraining order comes in and when the judge bangs the gavel, that woman and or kids are taken to a safe house.
Yep.
They're given clothes, they're given toiletries, I'm like, my God.
Yes.
And then also a plane ticket that they need to go back to wherever is home, and that they're okay and away from that the cause of the incident here.
Yeah. So there's definitely organizations that are doing that and that do a very good job of that.
In your experience, I love that we're talking. It's awful that we're talking about it, but I love that we're talking about it. So thank you.
Of course. No, of course.
I love it.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I don't think people, of course, know there's hookers and prostitutes in Vegas, but I don't think a lot of people understand the dynamic of it or how dangerous and crazy and how these girls are treated. Right? Of course, they're victimizing the Johns, right? But also they're victims themselves, unfortunately. Some of them are. I'm not saying that all of them are. Some of them choose this lifestyle willingly, and they love it, right? It's a thrill for them. A lot of times now, these prostitutes won't even have sex with these guys. They'll get them so drunk and so drugged up, they'll go up there and rob them, use their phone as a face app, open it, sell themselves money, steal their Rolexes. And a lot of these guys don't report it because they're married, or they'll report it to the casino staff. As soon as you get the Metro involved, like, hey, I don't want to report this because they don't want their spouses finding out about this. And these girls are good. There's been times where we've seen video footage of them walking through the promenade or wherever they're at, and this one took this guy's $80,000 Rolex right off his wrist. Didn't even notice.
At the Wynn?
Yes.
I just had on, and it'll air before this one, Vegas Starfish, Jen, and she's, if not the top, in the top 2 or 3 Vegas social media influencers. And
Right.
she's always talking about stuff on the strip to do and all that. And I had questions for her set out. And one of them was, I said, what's the one thing that everyone expects in Vegas, but it falls flat? She said, prostitution.
Mm-hmm.
She says, a lot of times, she says, I'll get DM'd by people that'll say, hey, my husband and I have always wanted to have a threesome. What do you recommend? And she's like, honestly, if you drive 45 minutes outside of town,
Right.
it's legal. Is it Pahrump?
Yeah, I think it's Pahrump. Yeah.
So you go to Pahrump and they have brothels right there. They're safe.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they're doing. And the best part of that is you're paying to have an experience that's legal and you can leave.
And it's going to be safe and you're not going to
And
get robbed.
you know it's going to be safe and you're not going to get robbed.
Yep.
Where do you think it goes both ways, but hookers, prostitutes, where do you think the prostitutes robbing their Johns ranks like in crime on a property? Is it like top 5?
I'd say it's probably it's up there. It's in top percentage of crimes happen on the property. It happens a lot. If you're working the day shift, you're going to get a lot. It's probably it's up there. It's more probably one of the top crimes that happens.
Did you experience stuff like that once a week, twice a week?
Oh, probably I would say at least once a day.
Once a day, somebody was reporting getting robbed by a prostitute.
Yes, at least.
At the Wynn.
Yep.
And we don't hear about it.
Nope.
And here's inside baseball for you. You do hear about it when it's some guy with a fuck ton of money.
Yes.
And he puts billboards up all over the place to say, I want to find this person because she took, $200,000 that was in my safe and Rolexes.
Yep.
And
a lot of these times, these girls are good at it, and they're repeat offenders, or they've been trespassed from the Wynn probably several times, or other properties they've been trespassed, and they just go in there and they count their luck because unfortunately they know the way the laws are now. It's a slap on the wrist. Even if they get taken to CCDC, they'll be in there for 24 hours and they're right back out.
what's CCDC for those that don't know?
Clark County Detention Center.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. You're fine.
Yeah, they
I
take
got
them
you.
down. They take them down to county jail, and they know they're going to be out in a matter of hours or maybe a day, and right back to it. So them risking a small fine, because them to get jail time, it's, to be honest with you, they're decriminalized everything unfortunately these days. So they know the risk versus reward is worth it. They can go make, they don't sleep with this guy, but they can take him for $20,000 for his Rolex. Or I've had it before to where these girls are actually getting in the clubs now. They're actually baiting Johns in the clubs. I had one night where this girl baited a male and husband, a wife and a husband out of the club, got them back to the room. The female passed out. The wife passed out. The girl wound up stealing some jewelry. The wife wakes up wondering what's going on. They're in this huge suite at the Wynn. Goes into like a billiard room, finds the prostitute making out with her husband, and this whole domestic thing arose. So we get called up to domestic, but turns out the girl was drugged, the wife was drugged, the guy was on being drugged by the prostitute, and she was planning on going to rob them when they passed out.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that happens at least once a day.
It happens a lot more than people realize, yes.
That's insane.
Yep. And the wife wound up getting arrested for domestic violence because she threw a bottle, hit her husband, hit it. And I felt bad, but the charge wound up getting dropped after the whole situation happened, after we found out what happened. She wound up getting the charges dropped, things like that. But it was just a messed up scenario. They had kids up in like one of the second stories with their nanny when this was all going down. It was a mess.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Fucking bad parenting. Just
Right.
bad parents.
Right?
Come on.
But you see them walking out of the club and they're in and this is where, unfortunately, it happens all the time where people get overserved in this city. I know there's training on it. Bartenders, people, staff are supposed to recognize the awareness, but if somebody's tipping you $100, $1,000, they're not going to stop serving you here. That's the God's honest truth. I.e., why do you think these cocktail servers make so much money? They get them lit. They may have a minimum, but oh, hey, you want this bottle of, of Ace of Spades champagne that's $6,000? Oh, let me get it for you. Whatever the case is.
$6,000?
I think it's like four a grand for an Ace of Spades, depending on where you're at, which is ridiculous.
I'm a Tito's and tonic guy.
Right, I'm a Tito's and soda guy myself. Right? But even a bottle of Tito's is $800 at the club.
See, I'm so glad that. How old are you?
I'm 38.
Okay, you're a baby. You're a little baby. You're not little, but you're a baby. And it's like, I have absolutely no desire to go to a club where it's just loud. I'm an old 80s metalhead. Like, I'm a Metallica, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest guy. Like, that's me. We went to 80s night. Brandon went with some friends to Red Rock. They're really cool, actually. They did a whole 80s night at the Rocks Lounge.
Oh, that'd be fun. I like 80s music. I like anything,
and they were playing like super cool 80s music. We had a blast. But you're getting drinks, and my girlfriend, I love her to pieces. She's from Northern Georgia. She loves to have a cocktail. Not all the time, but she's a nurse, and so she, likes to unwind and have a cocktail. And so the first cocktail we got, she could barely taste the booze. She was furious. And I'm like, honey, welcome to Vegas. So then she goes to doubles.
Oh, geez.
And she had 1.5 doubles, and she's no bigger than a minute, Dave. And then she's like, I'm good. I'm like, you're good, honey.
Yeah, you're fine.
You're good, because she's also the funniest drunk ever. She's already funny as could be. But we went to that, and we had a great time. Awesome time. If anyone likes 80s music, they have live music. It's free to get in at Red Rock, at Rock's Lounge. But the drinks and the girl coming over was great. But yeah, you're getting, and I told Brandy, I go, and you're going to pay $15.
Yeah, a drink.
$16 a drink.
On the low end, depending on where you're at in Vegas.
But this is off strip.
Yep.
And Red Rock's a great property. Love that property. But that's what you're going to get is watered down drinks where, you go on strip and they're going to give you a heavier pour if you're tipping, if you're taking care of them. And of course they're going to fucking overserve you.
Oh, absolutely. It's just like if you're gambling, right? Like, yeah, they're some places say, well, you can drink one drink an hour. That's not the case, right? If you have a high roller or somebody playing, like I've done this before when I would come to vacation here. I would tip the cocktail server $25 right off the bat. Bam, she was back with talking to me in 5 minutes. Yeah. You want another drink?
Yeah.
They exploit that, right? It's not good for them because they're trying to make their money. Not trying to say that's a bad thing, but the thing is people get overserved all the time in this town.
It's a massive catch-22 for the servers, because if they don't, then that person's not going to pay them, and they're there to make money.
Exactly.
So who do you blame?
It's that fine line.
Right? It's a very fine line, Dave, because personally, I can't blame the server because he or she, that's how they make their living.
Right.
Is tips. Like, I don't want to get paid in hours like North Korean internment camp.
Right, yeah.
Wages.
Probably not.
It's horse shit.
Yeah.
So if a guy is throwing a $25 chip in the beginning, absolutely you're going to be on him like white on rice.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, why not? I know we did an investigation before at the Wynn. This guy's playing in EBC, you've never been to Uncle Beach Club, have you? So they have a gambling section inside there with most of these clubs do, like that. They have a good one. This guy wound up winning probably $200,000 on blackjack that day. The server never left his side. He was tipping her $1,000 at a time. The pit boss, like it turned into this big thing because we thought at the time the guy was super intoxicated and everyone had quite a bit of money. But of course, there's always going to be questions. Hey, why wasn't the server talking to anybody else? Was she manipulating this guy into giving her, I think she ended up getting like 10 grand from the guy or something like that. So, it turns into this big investigation. Was she abusing her status by hanging out with him the entire time? And was a pit boss also abusing it? Because the guy was wound up, tipping the dealers, things like that as well, which it's a fine thing to do. But when it comes to large amounts of money like that, it's going to raise some red flags.
What ended up being the end result of
the server did nothing wrong. I think she got in a little trouble for for staying by the guy's side for too long, right? Because it kind of showed favoritism or whatever the case you want to call it. And I think the pit boss got in some trouble for some of his actions that were violated some of their code of conduct, I believe.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This has been fascinating.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
A lot of things happen. People don't even understand.
Well, no idea.
Yeah.
Just no idea of
Yeah,
really
or
the
and
underbelly
unfortunately-
of
And it
Vegas.
does, going back to the club with these cocktail servers making great amount of money, but they also been known to juice the, to juice the receipts or juice the customer into buying more. And because they automatically get tipped 18 to 20% gratuity on every bill.
Auto-grat.
There's auto-grat on every bill, and it's 18% or 20 depending on where you're at. And of course, they try to juice them to tip them more. So it just, unfortunately, it happens, and it's sad that it happens. And it's just, they get greedy and they want to make as much money as they can. And the cocktail servers make a boatload of money, but yet, they have their bus boys. They're held to a different standard. I'll tell you right now, at the Wynn, they can only take $300 a night in cash. Everything else goes to a tip pool. These servers, so it's a catch-22. These bussers make good money still, but these cocktail servers make out like bandits that these people don't realize. They get tipped out a night, 10, 15 G's or whatever, after whatever it is that night, even though it goes to a pool, right? So just because one girl makes 20 grand, the other girl makes 5, it goes into this pool, but they walk out of there every single night with thousands of dollars in their hand. But yet I've done investigations to where cocktail servers try to give the busboy more money, takes it, and it ends up being a violation of ethics or violation of standards, and they get in trouble. I'm like, it's a catch-22. I said, that's not fair. Yeah. There's some rules and some things that happen that aren't right. It's a catch-22.
It is. Well, there's a lot here.
And of course we do, places do secret shoppers to where they'll hire somebody to go in and they have marked bills and they'll tip them and let's see if they'll turn them in at the night. That happens, I don't know how often casinos do it, but I know the Wynn, we did it, quite a bit. We had secret shoppers come in and trying to catch people not declaring their tips.
That's awesome. I love that. This is off topic, but like with my kids, I'm at Hilton Diamond Club. So we get a free night every year.
Yeah.
Right? And so my favorite property on this trip is the Waldorf Astoria.
It's a nice property.
Right?
Yep.
No gaming. It's awesome. It's a 5-star property.
Yep.
I'll pay for a night and get a night for free and take my kids for a couple nights, and we have a blast. We get the room service. The bedding is fantastic. The food is great. We love it. Like, that's our place.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm lucky enough that can swing it and do it and have a good time.
Yes.
But like, I met Dave Chappelle there one time.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, at the pool. Nicest guy on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
And I made him laugh. But yeah, a nice guy on the planet. Have you ever met anybody famous?
Oh, I've met a lot of famous people in town. Oh, geez. At the Wynn, we have Delilah, which is a supper club, which they have pop-up people
Which
in there.
no one can get into.
No one can get into unless you know somebody. So I've been there a few times. I've met 50 Cent in there. I escorted him up to the stage before. Bruno Mars, a handful of people. I met, yeah.
I heard,
Usher.
I heard that Bruno Mars has a residency here because he's a terrible blackjack player.
That's what I've heard. Yes.
Word on the street.
Like Usher, Jermaine Dupri, they came in the Wynn after Usher had his first, residency here. He hung out the Wynn quite a bit. So I've met quite a few famous people. I've had to deal with athletes getting arrested. They have different protocols for that. They have a whole area command or a whole different metro unit for high profile people.
Who?
Metro does.
What athletes?
What athletes? I can't say
okay.
their names.
I had to ask.
Yeah.
I had to ask.
Yeah,
That's fine.
Basketball players, one of them got domestic one night, wound up breaking, he threw an ashtray. It's a crystal ashtray at the Wynn, threw it at his girlfriend, missed her, and broke one of the windows. The outside windows, a big pane windows. I found out that night those windows cost $18,000. He was arrested, and the Wynn charged his credit card $18,000 to replace that window right there on the spot. So I've also dealt with very famous people. He's a DJ. He wound up signing. He signed. It was around the same time he signed with the Wynn online sport betting. He's also a DJ here in town. Famous basketball player snuck his 18-year-old kid into Encore Beach Club one night.
Wow. They just think they're above the law.
Yeah.
Or they just think the laws don't apply to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Because so many people are telling them yes, and here's millions of dollars. And go nuts.
And the way the Wynn does it, if you're high profile, they'll give you special treatment. If you're high profile in town, they get special treatment. If you're a high risk gambler or whatever, if you're loaded, you have lots of money, you're high value, they'll give you anything you want. They'll treat you differently. So high profile people, they'll scan them at a different entrance, different area, escort them in, and it got lost in translation in that. And then going through, and one of the security guards followed him, as a big fan of his, and alerted us saying, hey, his son's not 21.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And no one ever heard about that.
Nor no one will.
No.
Right? Because that's the kind of stuff that there's so much stuff that goes on here that nobody knows about.
Exactly.
Right? And people either can't talk about it, won't talk about it. I had a friend of mine came on, Dennis Garcia. I can't say what property he's at. I'll tell you afterwards. But he is the head butler for the cottages at a certain property.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? You probably know what property it is, me just saying cottages. But he was telling me stories about how, like, people are coming in, they're averaging $3 million.
Yep.
Is what they're betting. And, like, they're going out and buying clothes for these people. Like, they're sending a jet to China, to get these people, bring them back over here, or athletes, basketball players, and what kind of sneakers, socks, underwear, everything is purchased from ahead of time.
Yep.
And they have a separate area they gamble in.
Yep. They have they don't be disturbed.
It's not even a high limit area. They have a separate thing for the cottage people where they set up whatever, like if they know that John Doe, billionaire, from, let's say, China, loves Pai Gow, poker, and baccarat.
They'll set it up specially for.
They set up baccarat and Pai Gow poker in that room for that guy.
Yep.
That's it.
So he can play alone, doesn't get disturbed.
Exactly right. Yep. That's all. And my mind was blown by that, and how there's I think it's like a $250,000 chip.
Yeah.
I don't know what the biggest chip is, but that was like the biggest one he ever saw.
Yeah.
Was like $250K. I was like, holy shit. And it's like, average amount of money they bet is $3 million.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them bring cash. I'm like, why not just wire it? Nope, for some reason, cash.
They like cash. I know there's
in Louis Vuitton duffel bags.
Certain rappers that come to town that will bring $4 to $6 million cash and store it at the vault. And
then is it just they just lay a marker against what's in the vault?
Yep. And then they also probably have a line of credit with the casino as well. So I know some of these casinos, whatever money cash you bring out, they'll either double your line of credit for you. So you bring $4 million in cash, you have an $8 million, line of credit on top of that, $4 million cash.
Meanwhile, my son's teacher at Glenn Taylor Elementary School, he's in 3rd grade, has to have a wish list for Amazon for stuff that she needs, like reams of paper.
Yeah, that's sad.
And I happily donate.
Yeah.
But it's so sad to hear that kind of money is being spent here, which means how much in tax revenue are the casinos generating, yet why is it not going to CCSD?
Right.
Or if it is, why is it just going to the administration of CCSD?
Or the things that,
It's an embarrassment.
It sucks. Yeah.
It sucks too when being someone now that I don't know what the over-under is and when you consider yourself a local here, but I've been here 12 years. My son's born and raised, and it's an embarrassment when you have people online from around the world are commenting on my content when I talk about how much I love Vegas, or my guests are coming on saying how much they love Vegas, how Summerlin's one of the greatest communities in the world. And 80% of the comments is bullshit. Your schools are like 48th out of 50 or 50 out of 50 in the nation. And they're right.
It's sad.
It's awful, Dave. That's the part with me where I'm going to keep, and it's something for me, I feel like one of those fucking people at the Oscars where you get up and talk about pygmies in fucking some country aren't being fed while you just got an award.
Right.
That's like, shut the fuck up, dude. They fucking play them off. It's like, shut the fuck up. But it's something I'm going to keep talking about literally every episode to keep bringing awareness to the fact of we have kids that don't have lunch sometimes.
Yeah, it's sad.
Or have 20 minutes for lunch.
Yeah.
That's it. It's sad.
It shouldn't be like that.
It shouldn't be like that. And I'm trying to just bring awareness to that. So hopefully someday, somehow, some people can get in at the school district or somewhere to be like, okay, we need to break this. It's too big.
Yeah.
We have over 2 million people here for one school district. It's too much. It's
way
too big.
It's huge.
Break it up. Do Henderson, North Las Vegas, Summerlin, Southwest. Break it all up. Mm-hmm. Break it all the fuck up. And then let's do it right. But let's talk for a minute. We can wrap up is what are you doing now? Because you're obviously you're not in shape. You're a small itty bitty wafy thing. I thought Karen Carpenter came in here. You're emaciated. You need to eat something. I need to get you just a pot sticker or something.
Right, I need something. I don't eat. I don't work out.
You don't lift. You're not taking care of yourself. You're falling apart,
right?
Man.
I know. I'm a hot mess. So for the last 2.5 years, I opened a hormone replacement clinic, testosterone replacement clinic here in town called Magnus Medical. I've always been in the fitness. I've been bodybuilding, for 15 years. I played college football, played sports my entire life. I've also gone through a lot of injuries. I've torn my bicep tendon, had that repaired, had 4 or 5 knee surgeries. I'm 38. I've also had a full knee replacement already at my age. I've also had a disc replacement on my neck and my C6. So I've put my body through hell. So opening a hormone clinic is, i.e., I want to help optimize people's hormones and make them feel the best they can, make them feel like they're 21 again, and also bring knowledge and awareness and education to people that want to use testosterone, don't know what it is, and understand the benefits of it. I deal with a lot of athletes, bodybuilders, but I also deal with a lot of like CEOs or people that are, high value, high successful people that spend 12, 15, 16 hours a day at work. So I want to make sure we can optimize their hormones and make them feel the best they can so they can get the most productivity out of their day and they're feeling good. So not tired, low libido, things like that go into low testosterone. And I noticed too in the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of bodybuilders were dying because they're not taking their health seriously. Bodybuilders push, like any other extreme sport, they push it to the extremes. And they don't like to get their labs or they don't like to get their blood tests. They don't like to go to the doctor. And a lot of that could be prevented if they were just got their labs done and had a safe place to go. So one of the things I want to have a safe place to go. I know people are going to get underground labs, underground gear, which is it's your prerogative, but I wanted a place for people to go. They can get nice, safe prescription medications, testosterone, other, peptides, things like that will help them the longevity of their careers. And they also have a knowledge and education. A lot of bodybuilding coaches will put people with their patients or their clients on things, and these people do it willingly without even looking or without even knowing what they're putting in their body. And it's retarded. And then they wonder why they're fucked up after their first show. So the biggest thing was I wanted to help educate and give people knowledge. And it was another passion of mine from coming from law enforcement, helping people. So it was another way to give back and to help people and have a platform for it because it's not as taboo as it used to be. Testosterone replacement for both male and female. I have about half and half patient base of females and males. Females go way underdosed or misdiagnosed a lot more than males do because it's a little more complex. So it's nice to have a place that somebody can talk to, my providers, myself, and my doctors on staff that are understanding and willing to help based on their markers and their subjective what's going on with their bodies to try to make them feel the best or get them to their peak performance. The word I like to use is optimize. Optimize their hormones, optimize their health.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. It's a good, it's been a great industry business to be in. I've had some ups and downs with it since starting. So
welcome to being an entrepreneur, my friend.
Oh yeah. This is my first entrepreneur job or career, I would say.
Good for you.
I worked 90, I was a cop for 15 years, always had that steady paycheck. So when I left the wind to do this full time, it was a leap of faith. My back was against the wall. I had no other choice but to succeed in it.
Good for you.
And it worked.
Good for you.
Right?
Well, and I will add Magnus as a collaborator on any of this content.
Perfect.
That goes out.
Yep.
Okay. Just to get your brand out. The thing I've always said to my guests is, I know you're coming in and you have a certain thing that you want to talk about to my audience. But what my audience wants is more about you.
Yeah.
Because the more they learn about you, they're going to be like, Magnus Medical, what is this? What's this link up on Instagram, or on Facebook or on YouTube Shorts? And then that's how you'll get people because they want to know about the person first. Because especially in Vegas, everyone's trying to sell you something.
Oh,
here,
yeah. Everybody wants to get something over on you. Yeah.
But when they connect with you, through your stories, through law enforcement, through health and fitness, through overcoming huge injuries,
yes,
right? That then they're like, okay, what's this guy do?
Yeah.
Right? And so that's what's worked for like a lot of my my guests that have come on.
I like it. And you find out who people are by understanding their past and their present and where they've come from and help people is what I want to do. I've had my trials and tribulations. Like I said, I left law enforcement in Colorado because I didn't like the way it was going. I had a big fight and I had a big lawsuit with the city I worked for based on some things they did that were not the best. So coming out here, and finding the right people, the right business partners is hard. I had an out with my business partner this year, so now the business is mine, but it just goes to show you it's hard to trust people.
Absolutely. And with something like, we're both lovers of Brandon.
Yes.
Right? And he's had his trials and tribulations.
Yes.
I love him unconditionally.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Oh, he's awesome.
Right? I love him.
He's one of my best friends in town, yeah.
And
he has the heart of gold. He'll do
my
anything.
God.
Yeah.
And so that's the part about Vegas is how long you been here?
5 years.
Okay. You've seen it now. That there are some of the best people you're ever going to meet are in this town.
Yes.
Ever. That just want to help.
Yep.
You know, that's it. It's just that simple. And the longer you're here, the more you find those people and they find you. So I thank you for coming in, my friend.
No, thank you. It's been fun.
This has been a good time. We went almost an hour and a half.
Oh, wow. Seemed like it was just 5 minutes.
Right?
So I love doing this kind of thing.
Says my girlfriend every other night. So thank you, Dave, for that.
No.
That's just put me into shock, but okay.
No,
I'm kidding.
That's funny. No, thank you. I appreciate it. I love getting awareness out there for the clinic-wise and talking about my background. A lot of people don't know. Like I tell people, but a lot of people don't know my background. So it's nice to be able to talk about it a little bit.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.